Hi, it's Howard, and welcome to episode 3 of Road to Recreational Pilot, the flight section. And you might be wondering, why aren't we in the air? Well, that's because today, I think it's about time that you learn how to operate the engine, specifically, how to start it up. So why not, let's get started. So usually, you will have a checklist, especially since you are a young student. However, once you get more and more experienced, the checklist is only acting as a backup. During startup, I normally don't use the checklist. Why? Because I want to be looking outside in case anybody walks across the propeller, and that'll be bad. Well, enough of the nonsense. Let's get going, shall we? A little bit about the cockpit. I think you guys all are familiar with these instruments. I've talked about it time and again. These are the radios, as usual. Not applicable for this flight. This is cabin air. And for startup, because the cabin air valve is actually up front next to the engine, I'm going to push it in. Reason, if we get an engine fire on startup, I don't want fumes coming in through these vents here. So, the first thing I normally do is cabin air, verify that it's in. Cabin heat, don't need that. And then second thing I do is I go down here. This is called the fuel selector valve. It selects what fuel tank the engine is feeding off of. This is a high wing, so we have the both selection. Normally we feed off both. And moving up, this is a trim wheel. This is the fuel shuttle valve. I don't touch it. And these two controls, I think you should know what this is. This is the throttle, obviously. It makes it sort of go. This is the mixture. And the mixture actually controls how much fuel. It's basically this little valve that either allows and blocks fuel from flowing into the engine. And the mixture is actually really misrepresented because a lot of people have the fear of using the mixture. The only reason why, like, the mixture, for some people, they think that it's only for starting up the engine or to shut down the engine. But I'm going to get to that later. Basically, the mixture allows the fuel to go into the engine. How much fuel governs how much fuel. And moving on to here, this is the avionics master switch. This turns on all the radios, and this is the electrical master switch, which is a split switch. Turns on all electrical systems. This is the ignition key, like you get in the car. And let's get going, shall we? So what we're going to do? First thing we do in when we get into the cockpit, pre-flight's done, everything's done. Parking brake is set. Moving down here, fuel selector valve to both, since we want to feed off both tanks. Mixture exercise and set off. We want to make sure the mixture valve is clear of obstructions. We don't want anything to be obstructing the movement of any controls. Throttle, exercise, and set off. Since, remember, these engines, they are all mechanical, so you want to test that these all work. Exercise and set off. Usually what I do in the real world now is I set something called the friction lock. So it sets how much force you need to apply the throttle. But I set the friction lock. After that, throttle 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to crack it open like so. I find in the A2A aircraft you need to crack it open more than in real life. But yep, crack it open like so. Mixture verifies at idle cutoff position. So it's not here. It should be pulled all the way out. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make sure avionics master switch is off. Our beacon light is on because the beacon light is the turning light, red light in the tail that tells everybody that you're about to start the engine. And what we're going to do is we're going to open the window as we've done, and we're going to call clear prop. Shout usually in real life. And then you're going to turn the master switch on. And as the engine has been shut down for more than 30 minutes, we're going to do a cold start. For a cold start, we need to do something called priming. This is the fuel pump. Let me turn the master off. I don't want to drain the battery. But this is the fuel pump. The fuel pump, this is only a backup electric fuel pump. This is normally used during either if the engine-driven fuel pump failed or just for priming the engine. The idea of priming is that you're going to use the fuel injectors, and it's going to inject a tiny little bit of fuel into their combustion chamber in every engine, in every cylinder. So when the spark plugs come to fire during the starting cycle, it's going to kickstart the ignition cycle. So master on, verify fuel gauges, throttle's cracked, feet on the brakes, fuel pump on. Whoops. Oh, whoops. Fuel pump on. Mixture to rich. Look at the fuel flow. Wait for it to stabilize. It's stable. And then pull it back instantly. Quickly. And after that, make sure the propeller area is clear. And this ignition key goes to start. And as the engine fires, I'm going to move the mixture in. Like so. Let's move it in slowly. Don't rush. And before putting on our headsets, first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the throttle to 1000 RPM. We're going to do something called a live cut check. So we're going to do left, right, left, and then back to both. That switches the magnetos. Tells me that no magnetos have failed. If one magneto fails, the engine would shut off when we move it to either the left or the right position. After that, we're going to flick the avionics master switch on. And then plug our headset in, just like that. Not plug our headset in, but in the real world, you will put your headset on. And then what I usually like to do is get a bit of air in here, and taxi lights on. That tells everybody that you're about to start moving. So here's the interesting part. A lot of pilots skip this part, but I don't. I was always taught to do this. There's the mixture control. Governs how much fuel you need into the engine. But you don't need that much fuel when you're on the ground now, do you? So what I do is I just pull it an inch out. Pull it back an inch out. It prevents the spark plug from fouling, from collecting any carbon lead deposits. So just do that. And then after that, what we do, we start taxiing. So we're going to taxi to the southern run-up bay, and we're going to do our engine run-ups where we check the function of our engine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, first of all, lower the throttle. And then because we need to release the brakes. Brakes are released, and then just get ourselves rolling a little bit. Yeah? And then we need to test the brakes, just like that. Just make sure the brakes work. Just like that. And we're going to taxi out to the southern run-up bay. Now, a little bit about the run-up checks. During the run-up, I don't use the checklist either. In fact, when you get really good at it, you don't really use the checklist. But the checklist acts as a backup, so you always carry it. In the run-up bay, I use an acronym CIGARS. CIGARS as in controls, instrument, gas, airframe, run-up, and switches. That is how I remember how to do my run-up checks. More on that later. So we're taxiing now. As you can see, when you're taxiing, you really don't need the engine RPM above 1000 RPM. You always want to be on the center line, and just small rudder and brake corrections, just to get the aircraft right on the center line, because that's where the aircraft wants to be. During taxi, it's a good idea to scan your instruments and make sure that they are all functioning properly. So the turn instruments are functioning properly, the attitude indicator is properly caged, and it's good to set your altimeter. And basically, this is just a time for you to get to know the aircraft and get yourself into flying mode. We're gonna enter the southern run-up bay. The run-up bay is marked with red lines here. Southern run-up bay. In the real thing, there are literally words printed on inside the run-up bay saying Southern run-up bay. The Cessna is tricky to taxi because of the weird nose wheel configuration. So bear with me, I don't have rudder pedals, so I know it's bad, but normally you'll park into the wind, but we don't have wind today, so we're just going to taxi right to the edge of the run-up bay and then do our run-ups there. Just around here. Parking brake is on for the run-up. And once again, we're going to do our CIGARS check for the run-up. So CIGARS, controls. Controls should be full and free movement. Instruments, that's all you're going to check. T's and P's in the green, vacuum in the green, ammeter is charging. Gas, mixture goes to rich. Airframe, doors are closed, What I like to usually just close the window for now. Run up, so we're going to do throttle, engine RPM to 1800. And what we do here is we check the magnetos by switching it to the left and right positions. So it got 1800. Doesn't have to be really exact, but in the neighborhood. Magnetos to left. It was running a little bit rough. To both, but it's acceptable. Magnetos to right. And I usually like comparing these two mags. Alright, so the left magneto is running rough. It's probably because I've been running these spark plugs quite a bit on full rich. So what we're gonna do now, and you will see this in real life. I'm just gonna take the opportunity now to show you something. I'm gonna use a technique called the thermal shock technique. If you want me to explain it, just ask in the comments. What you're gonna do is you're gonna get the engine RPM all up to around 2300. Just run it nice and run it hard, run it hot. Get the engine temperatures up, and you're gonna lean the mixture all the way. You're gonna lean the mixture until the engine stumbles, and then just like that, yep, it's stumbling, and then you're just gonna push it in just to restore the engine RPM. Yeah, that's about it. You can run it a little bit more lean, actually, and you're just gonna wait here. This is the exhaust gas temperature. It should peak as well. You're just gonna wait here for about 10 seconds. So you're just gonna sit around, wait, monitor the engine, and the reason why this works is because fuel acts as a cooling agent as well, and if you heat it up, it's gonna burn the carbon that's fouling the spark plugs. All right, that should be fine now. And what we're gonna do now is we're going to go mixture rich, and we're gonna burst the fuel pump just a little bit, just the thermal shock. Bursting the fuel pump will allow a little bit of fuel to be pumped into the injectors, and it will wash away the spark plugs, hopefully making it run slightly, a little bit better, but just a burst. What I mean by a burst is mixture rich, boom, done. That's it. And you'll never find these in any books because it's an old technique. Only old pilots use it. Fortunately, I was taught. Back to left, and look, perfect drops. Both. Right, oh, that's textbook drop. That's what you want, about a 75 RPM drop. And you're going to check the annunciator panels. Check the oil T's and P's once again. And then we're going to do an idle check. So we're going to pull it back to idle. Make sure just it idles and the engine wouldn't quit. Don't do it so long. It'll foul your spark plugs, and that's good enough. For me, 1000 RPM, lean the mixture out. You can lean it really aggressively, but yeah, I just like to do 1 to 2 inches. That's fine. And that's it, done. Let's taxi out to the runway, and let's get going. So today what we're going to do, as you've probably watched the briefing already, we're going to do a lot. We're going to do climbing, descending and descending turns, medium level turns. And we're of course going to do the takeoff. We're not going to do landing yet. Landings will come next lesson. Next lesson is very exciting. Just going to keep that one a surprise. Or if you're me, or if you're way over prepared, you'll look at the syllabus and then you'll know what it is. I might need to check the spark plugs after this, but one note about the A2A aircraft, if anyone is using it, spark plugs tend to foul unrealistically easy. I know that I use a massive electrode spark plug, that's what everybody uses, but it does foul unrealistically quickly. That's weird. I don't know why, but I mean, I guess it's good. I mean, I use it to my advantage. I can practice thermal shock technique just to clear out the spark plugs. It's a very good technique. And yeah, so remember, fuel acts as a cooling agent as well. And when you're on the ground, your engine's already cold, so you don't need that much fuel. And I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible. Clearing out the spark plugs, you don't need to learn it right now. I don't think. And it's a very advanced technique, especially the thermal shock technique. A lot of people skip the fuel pump part, but I really think it's useful to, you know, you don't want to run the engine too hard, so that little squirt of fuel would allow the engine to be cooled a little bit quicker. So it's gonna be nicer to the cylinder heads, but I'm not gonna go too deep into it. For all intents and purposes, this is still your third lesson, so In your third lesson, your instructor's probably not going to talk about all of this to you, but that's me. I like aircraft systems. My favorite subject in ground school is aircraft systems, actually. I really like it. So in extended taxis, it's very good to lean the mixture out. And tomorrow, I mean, the next episode, probably not tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, but the next episode I'll show you something called very aggressive leaning technique. Yeah, the aggressive lean technique is actually what I prefer to do in real life. It saves the spark plugs a little bit better. But here we are taxiing. We're going to take runway 35 left out to the training area, so we're going to turn for a downwind departure. You don't need to know any of this because you're probably not practicing in Moorabbin Airport. It's ridiculously complicated, Moorabbin. But that's where I trained, so that's where I'm going to go. So approaching the holding point, when we stop, we're going to do a Timfish check. So the Timfish, I'm going to, hang on, just got to, a little bit too quick. Yeah, so Timfish is the acronym for pre-takeoff, as you probably know. And I'm just going to stop at the holding point. Just going to move up a little bit more. Stop. And alright, Timfish. So it's trims, transponder, mixture, master, mags, primer, fuel, instruments, switches, so it's that and that. Once again, controls, just gonna test that out once again. Hatches and harnesses secure, so it's doors and windows closed, doors and windows closed, and we can taxi onto the runway for a takeoff. So takeoff, when we apply full power, we're gonna make sure that the engine is running properly. And I think I've gone onto the wrong runway, but doesn't matter. I've gone onto the wrong runway, but okay, yeah, I've gone onto the wrong runway. I've gone into 13 instead. Actually, no, 31 instead. I mean, but for all intents and purposes, we are going to go. Actually, is this the right runway? Actually, it is the right one. Okay, it doesn't matter. And full power, here we go. So, full power, engine T's and P's in the green, right rudder being applied. Airspeed is alive. At 55, we gently rotate off the ground, let it accelerate, and then climb to VY attitude. So this is, I'm already demonstrating a VY climb. So this is the VY attitude right here. I'm not even looking inside. I'm just looking outside. I'm trimming for it. Trimming for the VY attitude. The key here, once again, is to use a lot of trim and, of course, a lot of right rudder because you got to keep the ball center. That's 500 feet right there, so we're going to make the turn. Actually, we made it to 35 left. I don't know what I was doing there, but anyway. So we're going to make the turn. So this is a climbing left turn right here. So the attitude is just like that. No more than 20 degrees. So this is a climbing left turn. We've already done 2 items now. This is the climbing left turn. No more than 20 degrees. We're going to do another climbing left turn onto downwind. And we're gonna also I forgot to mention something. A level off. Level off is not passed. Is ASPT, attitude, speed, power trim. So I'm just going to demonstrate that as soon as we roll out, and we're going to we're actually going to climb to, let's say, 1,700 feet and then level out. Establish the VY attitude again. And then 1,700, 50 feet away, nose down, attitude, speed, monitor the speed, make sure it's building, normal cruise attitude as usual, power, back to normal cruise, 2,200, and then trim for it. Just like that. So that's the level off, ASPT. Normally, PAST. Simple as that. So what I'm going to demonstrate now is a climbing right turn. So during a climbing turn, you don't actually want to do both at the same time. You want to do climb and then turn. So watch. Power, attitude, speed, keeping the right rudder. Power, attitude, so I'm going to set the attitude to VY. Speed, let the speed bleed off. Just let the speed bleed off. There's no rush. Right now you're just learning. So there's no rush to do anything. You just gotta do it right, not do it quickly. Get it well trimmed. So we got the speed, we got the trim, and then a right turn. Watch this attitude. There's a climbing right turn. As you can see in the climbing right turn, you need more right rudder because of the left turning tendencies. Just easy like that. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Leveling off, attitude, speed, building. Just wait for the speed to build. Power, and then trim. Just like that. Easy. So we're going to do a medium level turn to the left now. So once again, LBBB, look out, bank, balance, slight bit of left rudder, and back pressure. A little bit of back pressure, just to keep the attitude. It's a bit hazy today, but you get the point. So we're setting the horizon at the bottom of the compass, and then it's good to scan the instruments a little bit, and as you can see we're descending a bit, so I'm just correcting the attitude, descending a bit, correcting the attitude, and then roll out, bank, balance, and back pressure. Relax the back pressure, and we are right at 2600, right there. Let's do a roll to the right, medium level turn again. So look out, L, bank, balance, a little bit more right rudder, back pressure. This is the hard part, is getting this one right. Right turns are always hard. And then when you turn, don't forget A lap work cycle. Attitude, look out, attitude, and performance. Attitude, look out, attitude, and performance. And by performance, you monitor the attitude indicator, the altimeter, and the vertical speed indicator. Rolling out once again, bank, balance, and back pressure. Just like that, we haven't lost or gained any altitude. 2,600 feet, right there. Easy, isn't it? It's actually really easy. It's not hard. And now let's move on to descending. Actually, now let's sorry about that. Now let's do a VX climb. We've done a VY climb, the climbing turn, the medium level turn, and let's do a VX climb. It's the best angle of climb. Look out, power, attitude, horizon to the top of the registration. Speed's coming back. You can trim a bit early, it's fine. Eventually you'll start trimming by instinct. I guess that's what you do. And then speed's just coming back. You'll need more and more right rudder as the speed comes back. But don't feel uncomfortable, as long as you got the attitude, you're not going to stall, trust me. And then to tell bank angle, I actually look at this quadrant here. It tells you yaw, roll, and even pitch. It tells you a lot, that corner. So coming back now, need more and more back trim. 65 knots now. It's very close to the best angle of climb now. And look at that, just like that, just like that. we're set. 62 knots, best angle of climb. And let's level out again. Attitude, speed, power. Just wait for it. Just wait for the speed to build first. There's no rush for the power. A lot of students, including myself, pull the power back way too early. Don't need to. And then power now. And then trim. As if it was magic. It's not. It's just flying. It's not magic. So let's descend to 4,500 feet using the normal descent. So power, attitude, speed, and trim. Power, 1,800. Attitude, half sky, half ground. Just like that. Speed should be at around 100. And trim. And trim really depends. Sometimes you'll need a trim forward, sometimes you'll need a trim backwards. And the reason why you'll probably need a trim backwards is because of the secondary effect of power reduction. Just like that. And I'm hands-free. I'm hands-off right now. So leveling off, 50 feet. Power. Attitude. Speed. And trim. So quick recap. To level off from a climb is attitude, speed, power, trim. To level off from a descent is power, attitude, speed, trim. To turn, it's lookout, bank, balance, back pressure. And to... yeah, that's it, basically. And, oh, one more climb that I haven't done. Cruise climb. So once again, power. Attitude. Attitude, so nose right on the horizon. Just like that. Speed's coming back. Slowly, ever so slowly. Slowly but surely. I'm not going to trim yet. You don't need to trim that early, but you do need to trim. It's actually best to let the attitude settle first and then you trim. But trim is important. Don't forget about it. And we are at around 80, 85, 90 knots for our cruise climb. So as you can see, the visibility is much better. And let's level off again. So it's attitude, speed, power. Ideally, I should have leaned my mixture because I'm above 3,000 feet, but doesn't matter. There's an airfield in front of us. That's tired. Just like that. And let's do a glide descent, shall we? We've done everything else. Well, let's do a glide descent. So glide descent, I'm going to lean out the mixture a bit. Don't want to foul the plugs. Right, just going to lean out an inch. Glide descent, power idle, and then set the attitude. All right, set the attitude to round fast cruise, just right there. And you're just going to trim for it. You're just going to trim for it. And very imperative, if you want to glide well, especially in an engine failure situation in the future, you'll need to trim well. Because if you trim well, it's actually less drag. Very slight, but less drag. As you can see, the speed's slowly coming back. As you can see, just the speed slowly coming back. So as the speed's slowly coming back, you'll need more back pressure on the stick. It's about a fast cruise right there. Slowly coming back, should settle at around 70. 68 is the best glide speed, 70 is good enough. Within 5 knots is good enough, really. Especially when you're faced with an engine failure, that's all you need. Just like that, 75, so pitch the nose up a little bit, trim, and it should settle at 70 itself. Just like that. So that's around 70. I'm hands off. I'm basically trimmed now. I'm flying really efficiently, and that's what you want for an engine failure, because you'll be busy doing checks. You'll be looking out for a field and everything. Let's level off again. Oh, and also worth noting, every 500 feet, you should do a clearing acceleration of the throttle. So what you do is, let's say, okay, we hit 3,000 feet now. We need to clear the spark plugs. How do we do that? Hold the attitude. Don't need to do anything with it. But increase the throttle to around 2,000 RPM. Hold it for around 5 seconds and then pull it back. So every 500 feet, you want to do that. Alright, let's go back mixture rich and level off. We got one more thing to do and we'll wrap it up for today. We're gonna level off and trim. First, we've had a boatload of back trim because of the glide. Alright, let's do a descending left turn. What we're going to do in this descending turn, we're going to set it for a normal descent first. Don't need to do things at the same time. Set for a normal descent first, right? So 1800. Get yourself well trimmed out and well settled down. Right, so set the attitude. Set the attitude half sky, half ground. Get yourself trimmed. Get yourself trimmed out. Okay, and then let's do a left turn. Just like that. And then when you turn, you want to sort of just naturally let the nose down. Alright, just don't pull up so much now. Just a little bit of back pressure. That's all you need, because you want the attitude, the pitch attitude to go down very slightly. Just gonna pull up a little bit and just gonna that's the attitude basically for descending turn. Descending left turn. And let's level out again. LBBB. Let's go into a descending right turn. So LBBB. Bank, balance, back pressure. A little bit more. Descending turn. And LBBB. Just like that. And we level off. So, I believe we have basically covered everything today. Yep. So, quick recap for the main points. Climbing turns, no more than 20 degrees. Descending turns, no more than 30 degrees. Medium level turns, as I'm doing now, no more than 30 degrees. Takeoff, you want to make sure engine T's and P's are in the green very early. Make sure you have good revs. And VY climb. So VY climb attitude, VX climb attitude, and cruise climb. Review those and practice those in the simulator. And again, rules of thumb apply. Don't need to rush. Alright? Don't need to rush. There's no use in rushing. And also, look outside. There's no use looking inside. For most, I have practiced what I have preached, and I hope you believe me, because that's true. I look outside 90% of the time, and I only looked inside 10% of the time, because that's all you need. That's what you need to fly well. So that's it for now. The most important thing is, once again, have fun, fly safe, stay tuned for the next episode.